Hi, this is Val Hart, the real Dr. Doolittle, and today I'm interviewing Lee Milteer. She is a performance and productivity coach. She's an author and a professional speaker. She's the founder of the Millionaire Smarts coaching program, and she's a recognized best-selling audiobook author. She has wonderful books and products and other services. She speaks all over North America and Europe in conventions, private companies, and she's counseled and trained over 1 million people. You have such a rich career, Lee. You said that you've worked with companies like Walt Disney, AT&T, Xerox, IBM, Ford, NASA, Federal Express, 3M. I know you've worked and shared the platform with people like the late Norman Vincent Peale, Og Mandino, Jack Canfield, Mark Victor Hansen, Tony Robbins, Zig Ziglar, Stephen Covey, Brian Tracy, oh my God, Lynn Redgrave, Marlo Thomas. I mean, this is just amazing. Dr. Phil, Gene Simmons from KISS. Oh, I can't wait to hear how that was.
You can well imagine.
I can well. Oh, my God. Okay. Anyway, welcome.
Well, thank you. I'm delighted to be here with you, Val.
I'm delighted to have you. I'm glad you were able to make some time to talk to me today. But one of the reasons I wanted to interview today, Lee, is that you have a brand new program called Intuition, the New Common Sense. We want to inspire people to have permission to honor and hear their inner messages and their intuition. Why do you think it's important to learn how to listen to our intuition? What led you to do this?
Oh, well, first, I grew up on a farm ranch, 1.5 miles from the nearest secondary road, so my whole childhood was very, very isolated and surrounded by animals. Mm-hmm. And the great part for me is that we were only allowed like 1 hour of television a day, and my father's perception of kids was you should be outside playing. And so I was surrounded by nature and animals, and I really did learn intuition. Plus, I had a very wise father in the sense of that as a petite little girl, and I used to ride my horses 25 miles away from home, he was very astute at teaching me about paying attention to signals and signs and my feelings, and that don't trust what people say, but trust what my gut was saying. You know, we're trained by the Western culture to basically understand all of our experiences through logical, linear thinking processes. Really, the modern society we live in has taken the emphasis off the important I feel and put it on the I think when it comes to kind of decision making.
Right.
And we're not taught by society to accept things that are not explained by science. But the truth is, my father would teach me when I walked into a room to make sure that I feel safe. Where was the exit sign? Pay attention to what people were doing, not what they were saying. So I was really taught as a child to pay attention to that. And as an adult, I've had a very long career, as you read. My bio is extremely long because I've been around a long time, but I have really learned that intuition is the secret to success. When you study autobiographies and biographies of people of history, you will find that one of the most important skills that they had was the use of their intuition. Most important inventions today have been created because someone had the thought in their shower while they were cutting the grass or sailing on the lake. Over the years, I've always taught people to use intuition. I found out some really interesting, great information. You know, we've all heard of right brain, left brain. The right brain actually processes 40 billion bits of symbolic information per second.
Wow. The
left brain only processes 40 bits per second. Now, this is from a book called The Physics of Miracles by Richard Bartlett.
Okay.
I'm giving you this reference because I recently found this about a year ago, and I was so impressed with that the right brain, 40 billion bits. So the right brain is looking at all the stuff around us, where our brain is actually an inhibitor. The brain cannot take all the data that's coming in all the time. So the left brain narrows it down to 40 bits per second, which is an amount of information the brain can process. However, our intuition comes from really matching patterns. There's a couple myths about intuition. One is that women have more intuition than men. That is a myth. Men have just as much intuition. It's just that in our society, women are given permission to listen to their intuition more.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Also, women actually operate from 4 modalities where men operate from 2 for the most part. So the 4 that women operate from are mental, physical, emotional, and spiritual all at the same time. Mm-hmm. Men have been trained in our society to operate only from physical and mental. And therefore, a lot of men have been trained out of listening to their intuition.
Mm-hmm. Right.
So anyway, that's some scientific stuff before we get into the fun stuff.
Yeah.
Yes, and see, a lot of people think, oh, it's all wooey stuff. Mm-hmm. But, I deal in a world of the Fortune 500 companies. I've dealt with over 350 of the top Fortune 500 companies with, you've read a tiny bit of my bio.
Yeah.
And I really do interview, the CEOs of, Ford Global and AT&T and, all these big guys. Mm-hmm. The guys at the top really are very, very aware of their gut feeling of, this person may have a great resume. However, my gut is something's wrong. Mm-hmm, and, don't hire that person. And they've been proven right so much. Yeah. And they don't talk about it, but, I'm glad you're having this program. And I love what you do, Val. As I told you before we started our program today, I have personally used people in your profession. I have a lot of animals, and I am very impressed with the abilities that you have and people like you to be able to pick up information from animals. And I had a couple of sick animals that the vet said, put down, and my intuition said, oh, hell no, I'm not putting that animal down.
Yeah.
And so I was able to go to different people with your talents. And one time I had an animal who was just throwing up all the time. She was just allergic to eggs. And she just was getting little treats from my husband every day of an egg. A little treat of egg.
Yeah.
I would have never known that without someone with your talents.
Right. Yeah. They know what makes them sick. They often have their own answers. What we have to do is learn how to hear them.
Right. And by the way, this dog would still eat the egg in spite of the fact that she was allergic to it. So anyway, I know you have some questions, and I've given you some good, I've given everybody that left brain stuff to listen now.
Yeah, I know. Left brain. Okay, hopefully our left brain is satisfied, and it'll get
that was the point. Yes, absolutely.
So our right brain can tune in.
Absolutely.
I teach my students that animals live intuitively. Much of their messages to us actually come through our intuition. We connect in a certain way so that we're actually connected with others, but then we open the channel and we allow our intuition to guide us. So it's really important to develop our intuition in order to hear them, right?
Absolutely.
So this is a real timely subject because of what's happening in our world, different layers of unpredictability and illusions and things like that, and all the changes that we're being faced with. Can you speak to that for just a moment?
Oh, well, this is something I'm speaking out on stage a great deal. I'm speaking a lot about the morally bankrupt, without ethics people in our world who are portraying themselves to be our saviors and our people who know what they're talking about when they're really a lot of self-serving people.
Yeah.
And in business, I have a lot of people who come to me, just as any of you who are listening today. You have opportunities that come to you, and it's very important to listen to that instinct part of yourself where, for me personally, like if I'm talking to someone and I feel relaxed and they're sharing with me a business opportunity and I call it my chest opens. In other words, my heart chakra opens. Then I can feel truth. However, if they're talking to me and I feel closed down or my stomach starts to hurt or I feel uncomfortable, I know that there are untruths being said. And I'll give you a quick story. Years ago in my hometown, I live in Virginia Beach, Virginia, there was a guy who was getting all this publicity about being this great financial expert. I was very lost in this, it's hard enough to make the money, then what the hell do you do with it is another thing. And so I went to this guy, and I felt kind of nervous about going to see a financial planner. I didn't have that much money, but what I had I'd saved up, I'd worked hard for. And I'm sitting in his office, and he's talking to me, and I started shaking. And I started shaking so bad, Val, that I realized I didn't know what was wrong at the time, but I had to get the heck out of that guy's office.
Wow.
I didn't sign the papers in spite of the fact that he started pushing me harder and harder, and I just left. 3 weeks after that, there's a big thing on the front page of our newspaper of this guy being arrested for a Ponzi scheme, and that he had taken thousands of people, and that, you know, he was part of a certain church, and he had totally abused people terribly. That really gave me a very clear experience of, okay, there's a body intelligence, we're all connected, there's something going on that the inner part of me, the wisdom part of me, really knew. And since then, I developed something which I do talk about in my program you mentioned earlier, the intuition, the new common sense, because I hope it will become the new common sense. I call it the head, heart, gut check.
Okay.
So the head is ask yourself questions about a situation or problem or a challenge. So you want to use your conscious mind to discern the questions. For example, you want to ask intelligent questions. Is this person telling me the truth? That's a very intelligent question. The heart. So you listen to your heart and ask, is this the right direction for me? Do I naturally feel attracted to this? Am I hearing the truth? Because the internal part of yourself, that voice inside of you, will tell you if things feel right or wrong if you pay attention to your own signals. And, you know, Val, your signals will be different from my signals and the people listening. But it's a matter of really paying attention. And then the gut check, you know, trust that gut feeling. If it doesn't feel right, here's the truth. It's probably not right. It may not be the right person. By the way, one person can be right for one person and then wrong for the next. Your gut instincts, your inner voice is always there if you'll pay attention to it. And I always recommend that there's a power in noticing things, so become acutely aware. Your sixth sense becomes sharper by taking the time to consciously notice things. Because, see, our left brain is very lazy. It ignores anything that scares it or doesn't please it. When you force yourself to notice things, you're engaging your mind. When you take the time to notice, you're requiring your mind to come away from its own self-talk and self-absorption. And so simply improving your observation skills will improve your sixth sense. And the other thing I want to say is pay attention to red flags. Since your brain is programmed to ignore them, when you start to notice something that is not congruent, like the person said something 5 minutes ago and now has contradicted themselves. Ooh, that's a huge red flag.
That's a red flag, yeah.
And our society, Val, is brain dead about this.
Right.
They're very brain dead about making decisions. And looping back to your question about there are illusions in this world. There are people who deliberately take advantage of other people. I call the world to be divided up into two. There are the givers and there are the takers. And you could term that there's the good and then there's the dark. And you got to decide which team you're on. And I decided to be from the light team, the good team. So, you know, if I give you my word, I will move mountains to make sure that word is, you know, done, or I'll renegotiate. I also do due diligence. For example, if I'm going to do a business with someone, not only do I check their references, I Google them, I listen to my intuition. So I do the left and the right brain. And I want to know things like, you know, if you're going into business with someone, how many times have you been sued? Because if a person's been sued a lot, guess what? You know, if there's enough smoke there, there's fire.
Yes.
In the entrepreneurial world where I live, a lot of people just let greed overtake their natural good common sense. You know, the truth is, if it sounds too good to be true, hey, it probably is.
Yeah. You know, I think it's so interesting because animals live very much with integrity. They're direct, they're honest, they give us clear feedback, you know, to the best of their ability from their viewpoint, right, from their experience and their training. But they live in this present moment. You know, they're not in the past or the future. They're not usually motivated by greed.
Other than that treat they want later.
Other than the treats and stuff and things like that. But, yeah, it's still an honest want. You know, it's not a manipulative kind of a thing so much.
Right.
These are really good points. The head, heart, gut check, being more consciously aware and the power of noticing things, paying attention to red flags, or what I would call bullshit meters.
Absolutely. I didn't know if we could say that. I love that. That's a better term. Bullshit meters. Thank you.
That's what I call it. And then, and choosing the camp that you're in. Are you a giver or are you a taker? And if we're a giver, and I know takers consider givers their marks, right? So
yes.
We have to educate ourselves. We have to do due diligence, pay attention, ask the right questions, listen to our intuition. If there's enough smoke, there's probably a fire. And if it sounds too good to be true, it probably is. Yeah.
And it's all about really people taking charge of their own destiny and their own reality and being very proactive, but understanding that you have this built-in intuition, this guidance system, which people used to call instincts. It's only really in the last 100 years where people are now so enamored with electronics. For instance, my father, being a rancher farmer, he joked that he would listen to the weather, but his instincts of what the weather was going to be were always right. He could watch the animals. He could feel the air. He could watch the sky. He had learned that from, not only many years of being, what he did, but from his whole ancestry. Yeah. His thing to me as a child was, there are warning signs if you pay attention to them. I'd like to make another suggestion is everybody should keep an evidence journal of when you have an intuition about something. Okay. Write it down, and then go back and check up on things. Another thing is to increase your intuition, you have to actually work at it, play games. So, the next time the phone rings, if you don't have caller ID, guess who it is. Mm-hmm. Or when you're in an elevator, this is my favorite ones. Which elevator is going to come next? And I'm not always right. I would like to always be right, because if I'd have been always right, I'd have won the lottery by now. But right. I don't really work I buy a ticket every once in a while, and they always go, just one? I go, yeah, just one.
Just one is enough.
Yeah.
That's it.
If I'm going to win, that'll do it.
It just takes one winning ticket.
Yes.
I love it. These are great games. There's another one I teach my advanced students where you put different kind of candies like M&Ms or crayons or marbles or things like that in a bag, like that you can't see through, of course, and you put your hand in the bag and you let yourself be guided to one of them, hold that, and then feel it. What impression do you have of that? And then pull it out of the bag and check yourself. So that's also a fun one.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah.
Val, I'm impressed that you're doing this, and I'm so excited because I call what you're doing and also I'm a bridge to the corporate business world. Mm-hmm. And you are this great bridge to people understanding, all about animals, but also using some of those skills, for their own self, because intuition is a very natural human function. Yeah. It's just through the years there's been a lot of people in power who burn people over the history and all the negative things of anybody who was a healer or, they were accused of being witches. So I figured I've probably been burned, if there is such a thing as, past lives. I've been burned a lot. But I do believe we have this ability, and it's important that the world understand it and teach it to their kids.
Right, yeah. It just was taking me back when I was young, growing up, and so sensitive, and I could feel more about the truth of the matter, and I was, receiving a lot of information, as we all do, I think. All of us do to some degree. I was probably a more highly sensitive individual than some others, but what was so confusing to me, Lee, is that people would lie to me. My family would lie to me. Society would lie to me, and it's like everywhere I went, I was confounded and confronted with things that I knew were not true. But as a child, what do you do with that? And what we tend to do is we override ourselves and decide that the authority figures and others must be right, we must be wrong.
Yes.
You ever get that?
Oh, yeah, and I had a very similar experience of, I was massively confused as a child about a lot of stuff because my gut would say one thing, and yet the adults in the world, the teachers and, you know, certain organizations would say another, and I became kind of a loner child.
Yeah.
I spent a lot of time alone, and I enjoyed that. And today I still and I do find that intuition is better when there's a lot of quiet in your life. I don't know if people meditate or, you know, meditation isn't something wooey. It can be walking down a beach or walking in nature or, you know, listening to beautiful music. It's just where your brain sort of cuts off the chatter.
Yeah.
Allow those feelings to come through. And, you know, as much intuition as I have when it comes to my own personal stuff, I do know that I have to ask myself intelligent questions like, you know, what is the best avenue for me to go at this time? You know, is this beneficial for me? I have to ask very intelligent questions.
Yeah.
And the truth is your brain is a computer. And it also, intuition is matching patterns. So it's also said that the older you get and the more wisdom you have and the more you see in life, the more patterns you'll notice. And therefore, intuition works faster. Yeah. But people like you were probably born with, you know, certain sensitivities. And, you know, we're almost afraid to say we're sensitive because there's such criticism for that.
Yeah, yeah. We're supposed to be thicker-skinned and just cope and do our best and whatever. And
so you probably said you're way too sensitive, right? Way too sensitive, Val.
Way too sensitive, yeah.
Yeah, you're reading, I love this one, you're reading too much into this.
Oh, that's a good one, isn't it? Yeah, don't watch what I do. Listen to what I said.
Yes.
You ever heard that one?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. And I grew up massively confused. My family, there was a lot of disconnect, you know, about they said one thing, but there was underneath agendas that I kept feeling the agendas, but you're always trying to give people the benefit of the doubt.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And all of us do that. We try to, the person standing in front of us or telling us something, we want to believe them.
Yes.
But there are times you just can't believe people.
And I think we get clouded, our judgment gets clouded by how much we want to validate the other one and believe in them and trust them. You know, we don't want to listen to the niggling doubt or fear. We want to just give that power over to somebody else and, you know, pray for the best, you know, kind of thing.
And, you know, think of all the loved ones in life that have had this feeling that their loved ones are cheating on them.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And, you know, I have known people in my life, good friends, who've said to me, you know, I just kept getting the feeling that something was wrong, but, you know, there was no evidence and I could never prove it, and every time I said something, I kind of got browbeat about it till I felt they stopped believing in their own intuition.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And the same thing about, you know, sometimes people have jobs and they go, you know, something's wrong, and then, you know, they're out of a job.
Yeah.
They don't know that the company's getting ready to close in spite of the fact that, you know, the company is swearing all is well.
Mm-hmm. Right. And then they go into work the next day and the doors are locked.
And your intuition is self-preservation.
Yes. I love that. You said something earlier I want to mention just for a moment. You said that the universe actually talks to us in messages.
I just think that if we pay attention to what's happening, I'll give you, from my own life, years ago I was in sales, and by the way, everybody's in sales. You're always selling your talents and your abilities and your skills with everything you do. However, I was in a sales job, and people kept saying to me, you know, Lee, you really should be a professional speaker. You should be writing. You should be on television. And the universe kept giving me these messages over and over and over, and I was thinking, what, are you crazy? And I couldn't relate to the fact that I kept getting the messages, to the point that the messages got so strong, I started taking them seriously. And I do believe that the universe will give you hints through other people, and I call those earth angels. Mm-hmm. So if you are hearing from someone, like if you're trying to decide whether you're going to be a parent or not, and then suddenly people start saying to you, you know, you'd be a great parent, or you'd be a great mother, or you'd be a great father, or, you know, you're so nurturing. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. That's kind of the universe trying to share with you that you've had a question, and the universe is giving you an answer.
Wow.
And it also comes through, if you have a question about whether you should do something, one of the things I'll do is I'll ask the universe a question, and then the answer may come in, in a line in a movie or a television show or a book, or I literally can I have a library of thousands and thousands of books, and I can take my hand and run over the books and have a question, pick a book, open that book, and the answer will be there.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
My father taught me that. And he just said, look, if you have a very, very clear question in your mind, and you just go through your favorite books and just pick one, and he said, about 98% of the time, the answer will be there. Now, he said, the joke was, a lot of times the answer isn't what you want it to be. So if it isn't what you want it to be, a lot of times you'll reject that answer like, I need another book.
Yeah, another book. Give me another book.
Is there another book?
Yeah, I want another chance here. Yeah.
So you've got to open yourself up to asking important questions. An important question for you might be, should I be looking for another position right now? Or is this the right time to move? Or should I invest? Or anything. Right. And you just keep asking the question, and then be very open to what the universe says, what people say to you. And when it strikes you, make sure you write it down and pay attention to it, because, Val, I don't know about you, but when I get intuition for myself, it's like this little teeny whisper.
Mm-hmm.
And it comes through, and it's not the neon in the sky that I'd really like to have.
Yeah, the writing on the wall, the billboard.
That's right, because that bush out back burst into flames and give me an absolute sign. I'm not getting any of that. I am getting the very tiny little message. I've been teaching intuition now, in the corporate world and a long time, and the letters that I get from people of, wow, no one in my educational system and my parents, and certainly not my church, have ever, ever, ever encouraged me to pay attention to my intuition. And I always ask for results. Yeah. Show me results. Yeah. So with students who have come to me, it's like, it's great to know that your intuition is working out, but show me the results. That, you got intuition, you followed your intuition, and this is the good thing that happened.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I encourage that for everyone. Because there's a difference sometimes between our wants and intuition. Mm-hmm. So there's different ways people can access things. There's muscle testing. There's pendulums. If you go back through history, there's many, many ways people have tried to access their subconscious mind. But all answers are really deeply within us already.
Yes.
About ourselves. It's just we have to be open enough to hear them. Again, this is why your service is so great. As much as I love my animals, if they're sick, I get a little freaked out. Yeah. And, when I get freaked out, I can't hear any intuition.
Right. Something else, our animals already have their answers. They already know. They know what's wrong. They know why they're behaving the way they are. They know how they're feeling. They know if their life is coming to an end. They know a lot of things. It's not us trying to figure that out. As much as it is to connect and listen, right? To be fully present and listen with them.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I want to tell a really quick story, too. I think you'll appreciate this. I was just working with a client yesterday, and her animal has been in increasing pain, a dog, Airedale. The vets haven't been able to figure out anything to do with him. Nothing they've been doing has been working. He's been getting worse and worse and worse. And she called me in desperation, and when I tuned into the dog, he starts immediately whining and moaning and crying and just, going into it for about, several minutes. And I'm listening to it, and it turned out that he wasn't in personal pain that was making him act out so badly. He was in emotional and mental pain because he could sense that his human was having a very serious body problem. He thought that she was having like a heart attack. He felt very clearly that she was coming right up on having a heart attack. He was desperate to get her attention. And when I told her that, and, it's in communication work, it's interesting what we get, sometimes. And so I just share what I get. she said that it was very, very interesting because she had a dream not long ago that she had, in fact, had a heart attack. And she also had some symptoms. So,
gosh, we hope she went to the doctor and checked that out.
No, and it was so much. It's also interesting because as soon as I shared the message from her dog, the dog quietened, settled, relaxed, relieved. It's like, okay, the message has been heard. Finally, my human can get some attention and take care of this. So
I'm very impressed with that story, and know from working with animals my entire life, horses and every kind of dog there is, and domestic pets. They really do try their best to communicate. It's just we humans tend to be a little thick from time to time, catching on what the heck's going on.
And like we were saying earlier, if you feel like there's something wrong and you gloss over it, or you don't trust yourself, or you don't pay attention, then what usually happens is our animals wind up having some kind of crisis. Either a health crisis, or they run away, or they act out dangerously, or something, And if we had been paying attention in the beginning, we could have listened and done something about it before everything got so bad.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And so this is just, one of those skills that, again, is not taught by society. It's not taught, not in our school system. It's not taught by religion. And yet, our whole reality is always giving us messages about everything. Einstein had a great quote. He said, "The mind can only proceed so far upon what it knows and can prove. There has to come a point where the mind has to take a leap, call it intuition or what you will, but it comes out on the higher plane of knowledge." So I believe this. Yesterday's learned beliefs cannot solve today's challenges or capitalize on tomorrow's opportunities. It's really your instinct that has to do that.
Beautifully said. Thank you. So you have a new program called Intuition, the New Common Sense.
Yes, I do. You can find out more about it at my website, which is really easy to get, and it's just milteer.com, milteer.com.
Mm-hmm.
The program it's a 2-hour CD, 2 CDs, and it has accompanied transcripts with that. I really am a transcript person. If you hear something, we learn 3 different ways: visually, auditorily, and kinesthetically. And a lot of people can learn faster actually reading than hearing. So we created the transcripts. We have a quick start guide. We have a decision-making assessment guide and an 84-page guide with practical exercises where you can learn shortcuts to getting acquainted with your intuition, exercises to kickstart your intuition, other exercises to apply your intuition. We have a laminated intuition, what we call survival 911 guide, which is quick tips and reminders for using your intuition when you're kind of freaked out. The program is normally $149.95. But if they hear it on this program, there'll be a price of $97. That's a savings of $52.95.
Wonderful. Thank you. Okay.
And there's some gifts. I always like to give people who invest in themselves. When you invest in this, you'll also get a DVD called The Phenomena, which is a $39 value DVD, and you'll also get an ebook called The Secrets of Successful Goal Setting. And the reason the goal-setting ebook is in there is because if you really want to set great goals for yourself and use your mental, physical, emotional, and financial energy appropriately, you've got to listen to your intuition of where your passions are, what you really like to do, and not just set goals for greed or set goals just because other people have set them for you. You will become the most successful in life when you leverage your natural talents. And when you listen to your intuition, you'll know what they are. Because the universe is constantly telling you, you're good at this, you're good at that. There is a link that you have, right, Val?
Yes, I do. It is budurl.com/Milteer Intuition. budurl.com/Milteer Intuition.
Yes, because when they use that particular link, that's when they get all the free stuff.
Oh, cool. Thank you.
Okay?
Oh, wonderful. So
I just want to make sure everybody uses that link so you can get all the free gifts.
That's great. Thank you. So listening to the show here today, our interview, if they'll follow that link, they get all the special gifts.
Yes,
that's
correct.
That. How brilliant. Thank you.
My pleasure.
What contact information do you have? Do you want to offer anybody anything else?
Well, sure. We're in Virginia Beach, Virginia. Our office is 757-363-5800. Again, the website is the easiest to reach us. We have live help on the website. We have, you can order directly from the website. I mean, it's milteer.com, milteer.com. You can Google me. I have, millions of pages of Google. I've been around a long time. We have a lot of other products, obviously, that we have done over the years. I've written 6 books and numerous, over 100 DVD and CD educational programs, depending on whatever challenge people have. We certainly do have programs that assist them to reach their potential and their goals from a very heart-centered reality.
I love that. You also have a wonderful free newsletter that I want people to be aware of, and everybody go get a copy and sign up for your newsletter. So, yeah.
Yes, the newsletter is called Untamed Success, and I've been doing a whole series, and this is how you found me, a whole series on intuition.
Yeah, and they're wonderful articles. I am inspired every time I read one. I love it.
Well, we've named it many things, but over the years we finally just came up with Untamed Success because that's what I really represent. It's like there's no limits in life. The only limits are the ones that we allow other people to put on us or that we put on ourselves. But really, we are magnificent creatures who are able to create and manifest amazing things in our life if we just give ourselves permission to do that. And again, you can have whatever you want in your life if you focus your mental, physical, emotional, spiritual, and life energy in a congruent way to manifest those things. I'm a big believer in manifestation.
Yeah, I get it. Thank you. And you have all the results to show for that.
Well, I really have a lot of results because I haven't gone the traditional way of creating success, and I've taken a less traveled route to success, and it's been very beneficial to go from that heart-based route.
I love that. Thank you. We need more people working from a heart-centered position, using their intuition as their new common sense.
Yes, I would like the intuition to be so accepted, in the next few years that people are not taken advantage of by the morally bankrupt human beings that are out there. That's a nice way of putting it.
That was a relatively nice way of putting it.
Yes.
Well, Lee, thank you so much for your time.
My great pleasure, and again, congratulations for what great contribution you add to the world.
Thank you. All right. Well, let's go do some more good work, and I hope to catch up with you, talk to you another time.
Thank you so much, Val.
Thanks, Lee. Okay, bye-bye.
Bye-bye.